Welcome, everybody. I'm Kalani, and this is another episode of Music Mindfulness. Today, we're going to be talking about what is mindfulness. And of course, there are many definitions. There's many ways to manifest or practice mindfulness. It's nothing new. But I do want to cover a few things that I think will be helpful for you, both in terms of what mindfulness is, according to me, and what it isn't. How to recognize practices that are going to help you practice in an authentic way and in a way that suits you, regardless of what other people do and say about it, including me. So, of course, just like any advice that you get from anyone, you can take what's useful and leave the rest. It's okay. But by the end of this talk, I hope that you'll leave with a few things that you can try that are easy and that are effective and sustainable and economical. Mindfulness doesn't cost you anything to do. So we're going to do that. I'm going to describe what mindfulness is, and then I'm going to review the music mindfulness model in the hopes that that will be helpful as well. So again, I want to welcome you all. Thanks for participating. If you're interested in the musical components, some of the instruments that I'm playing and how I'm creating the music, you can find out more about that over at our Patreon site, patreon.com/Kalani, and there you'll find all the musical components, everything you need to learn about the instruments, and you can ask me questions over there if you decide to become a patron. And of course, that's not necessary to participate in these music mindfulness episodes because these are a community service. They are a gift of tithing from me to you. So again, thank you for joining me today. And if you're watching later, that's fine. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is a state of awareness, of heightened awareness, and I think it also just relates to, of course, another component is a non-judgmental or non-labeling, identifying things, putting labels on them. It's not so much a subjective experience. Of course, it is subjective in as much as you are having the experience. But the goal of mindfulness is to really have a clear and authentic experience, uncolored and unfiltered and uncensored by our mind, our brain, and our emotions, everything that is personal to us or individual to us. It's really a way to, I think, wipe the window clear and see clearly and enjoy the experience of being, which is one of the most amazing gifts. The most amazing that you're ever going to receive. Your life, the fact that you're alive, the fact that you can experience the world as a sentient being, that I think is at the core. And so there's not really anything you have to do to be in a state, a mindful state, or practice mindfulness. I think it's more about not doing things that would detract from being in a mindful state. I hope that makes sense. So let's talk about what mindfulness isn't for a second. Mindfulness is not about being in a certain place at a certain time. It's lovely to go to beautiful places, be on top of a mountain for the sunrise or see the aurora borealis. Those are all things that you can do to add beauty into your life and to appreciate the wonderment of the world and the beautiful, things, elements around us. But doing that is not mindfulness. That's extra. That's something extra that you can do. Mindfulness is not about being in a certain posture. And I realize that when we go online or we look in magazines or look at ads, often the word mindfulness will be accompanied by somebody sitting in lotus position. And I want to be clear, I'm a fan of yoga. I'm a fan of meditation. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But sitting in lotus position, again, that's not mindfulness. That's just sitting in lotus position. Could you be mindful and sit in lotus position? Yes. Could you be mindful and not be sitting in lotus position? Yes. So sitting in lotus position or creating mudras with your fingers or hands, making shapes with your body, those are, again, that's not mindfulness. That's something else you could do during or not during being in a state of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not about saying certain words or uttering certain phrases or chants or even singing or music. Could you be mindful making music? Absolutely. One of my beliefs is that practicing music making helps us develop our mindfulness practice, but it's not necessarily the same thing. It's a complementary skill set. So the idea is doing something, in other words, let me summarize it this way. A behavior does not indicate a state of mindfulness, right? Doing something specific, wearing clothes, eating certain food, burning incense, listening or making music, being at a certain place, doing certain postures, all of that are behaviors. Now that you could be mindful during any of those, you could also not be mindful during any of those. So those are extra things that you can do. Don't misunderstand the path to mindfulness. You can practice as much mindfulness as anyone in the history of the world, regardless of who you are, where you are, your age, your economic status, your gender, any of that. You can practice as much as anyone ever has in the history of the world, wherever you are, whoever you are, and as ever you are. Mindfulness is a condition of beingness and awareness, and it is available to you forever, and as much as you care to participate. So I hope that message resonates with you and that you embrace that position and belief. I think it's important to understand that there are no boundaries, there are no bars, hurdles, tests, or anything preventing you from exercising your, should we call it a right? That sounds a little official. Your capacity to engage in mindful practice, to be mindful. And it's also my belief, and I'll just wrap up that idea with, it's my belief that taking time aside from your normal routine to practice or to be mindful, like to do certain actions, is, it's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with meditating, with sitting, with zazen, with yoga, any of that. I think that can be a stepping stone. It can be a useful practice to help you maybe mitigate distractions and carve out a little time for yourself. And those are good things. But ultimately, and again, this is my perspective and my belief. There are other people that might believe other things, and that's okay. Ultimately, I believe that the point of a mindfulness practice is to integrate it seamlessly and without interruption of your daily activities. It's not about changing and stopping and saying, now I'm going to be mindful. It's about asking yourself, how can I be more mindful all the time? Whatever I'm doing, every conversation I have with somebody, whenever I leave my house and I experience the world and everything in it, how can I be more mindful during that time? When I'm sitting alone, when I'm in nature, when I'm in a meeting, when I'm doing my work, when I'm playing, how can I be more mindful all the time? And I believe there are ways to do that. It's just understanding what mindfulness is and recognizing it, and then encouraging those moments, because none of us flip a switch and become enlightened, right? That idea of enlightenment, of attaining enlightenment, while it's a certainly noble goal, there's nothing wrong with moving towards enlightenment. Again, and this is my belief, I don't believe that you are non-enlightened, and then suddenly, boom, you're enlightened, and then you live the rest of your life as an enlightened being. I think that's a false expectation. What I would suggest to you is that you look for moments of enlightenment. You look for and to create and increase the frequency of enlightened moments in your life, and you may feel them. In certain instances, you'll feel it. You'll know it when it happens, because you'll be able to observe yourself having an experience and move towards the authenticity and the non-judgmental aspects of life in that moment. And you'll say, yes, that's what it's about. And then you'll also have moments where you don't do that, and you get upset, and you have a tantrum, and you get swept away in emotions. And both of those things will happen. So it's not about becoming enlightened. It's about increasing the moments of enlightenment, the feeling, and the beingness. So don't punish yourself if you're not, perfect in your quest for enlightenment. Nobody is. That's an unrealistic expectation. Okay, so I want to share with you, before we get back to music making, I want to share with you one model. This is my model of music mindfulness, and it looks like this. And I hope this could help you. So one of the things about mindfulness, of course, one of the goals is to manage our thoughts. So you can think of the M in music as managing your thoughts, and I've talked a lot about how to do that. I'm not going to talk about how to do that right now, but just remember that your mind is there to help you, not hinder you. And I think the pathway to mindfulness involves recognizing which thoughts are valid, which thoughts are helpful, not ruminating, not thinking too much about the future or the past, and just managing your own thinking efficiently and with some skill. The U in music is for reminding us that we want to keep an unbiased perspective, meaning we want to not necessarily immediately take a position, but we want to remain in a state where we can look at things from a different viewpoint, a different perspective, meaning kind of walking around something, taking our time before we root ourselves in a certain perspective or position, let's say. Because when we take a position on something, then we lock ourselves into one perspective instead of being able to walk around the thing and look at it from different perspectives. And really just to not really think about the need to take a perspective, but just, remaining unbiased, remaining open, remaining curious, and not to think that we know what something is just because we have one experience of it. The S in music is to remind us that life is about tuning into your senses and having what I call a sensational experience of life, meaning, it's a double meaning, right? Sensational as in fantastic and wonderful, and sensational meaning based in the senses, because we are earth-bound beings, we're physical beings, we are animal beings, we are animated earth. And our life experience is really about what we sense, not so much about what we think and what we believe, even though in many ways we're taught to believe that life is a lot about what we think and what we believe and what we imagine. But actually that's not true. Thinking is just thinking, imagining is imagining, but being is rooted in what you experience in your senses. And then the I in music is to help us remember that we need to identify our values specifically. We have to identify what's important to us so we can move towards it. And also so we can move away from things that are not important to us, that are not our values. So if your value is authenticity, if your values are happiness, joy, humor, discovery, being creative, then you need to do things that move you in those directions and take action that will open up those kinds of opportunities. If your values do not include arguing, feeling sad, feeling low energy, feeling lethargic, being angry about the past, being fearful of the future, then you need to identify that and move away from those things and take actions that are concrete and specific so that you can do the C thing in music, which is create value-based experiences, meaning that you want to create experiences based on those values that you identified. And that is a way that we can use music as a mindfulness model, because music helps us do all those things. The practice of music, the practice of identifying what we want, what we like harmony and beauty and rhythm and texture and balance and variety and surprise and creativity and fun and connection. We do all of that in music making. And so we become good at cultivating those relationships, and we become good at taking responsibility for creating those relationships, and we become empowered because we practice those values in our music practice. And then it's just a matter of transferring those skills and capacities into the rest of our life. So the music practice for me is a mindfulness practice. The music practice for me prepares me, it does more than prepare me for mindfulness. It is mindfulness. If I stay creative, I stay sensory-based, I stay non-judgmental, I'm not stuck in the past, I'm not in the future too much, I'm really in the moment when I'm creating music. Especially live streaming. That is a flow state experience, and that is an experience in acceptance, in creativity, in discovery of here and nowism, and that I would argue is right in line with a mindfulness practice. So to me, they're really one and the same. It's a different way to manifest mindfulness, but certainly I can take all the lessons and all the skills that I develop in a music improvisation experience, and I can transfer that into my life when I interact with people. The kinds of experiences, the way I am in the world can be the same. So let's get back into the music and see where it takes us. Thanks for joining me today. That's my message for you. I hope it's helpful. If it is, I guess, subscribe. See us over at patreon.com/Kalani if you'd like to study more. And be sure to check out the Evolve podcast on iTunes. That's another place that you can listen to the Evolve podcast series that's over there, where I talk a little more in depth, get a little more in depth on certain subjects. Let's make some music. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Have a blessed week.